Good afternoon, everyone. I formally declare open this Admissions Committee meeting of Colac Otway Shire Council on the 12th of June 2024. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this council's decisions to be those that contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I note that we have 6 councillors present at this meeting and that Councillor Margaret White is an apology for today's meeting, and I'm filling in as acting mayor. I'd like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present, and welcome any descendants here today. Please be advised that this Submissions Committee meeting is recorded and live streamed with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of meetings. The live stream recording of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open Submissions Committee meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. The purpose of this Submissions Committee meeting is to hear persons who indicated they wish to speak in support of their written submissions for the proposed discontinuance of Road Reserve 80A Hart Street, Colac, Council land, proposed Colac CBD speed changes, proposed Kennet River speed changes, and draft budget 2024-25 and draft fees and charges. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, please? CEO.
Thank you, Chair. I have a declaration that I have a general conflict of interest in item to do with the discontinuance of the road reserve adjacent to 80A Hart Street, Colac, and that's because the property and the road reserve is in reasonably close proximity to my place of residence.
Thank you. Mr. Teddy?
Thanks, Acting Mayor. I also have a general conflict of interest in relation to the matter at 80A Hart Street. My residence is also within close proximity of that address.
Thank you. Nobody else? Thank you, councillors. Propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the Submissions Committee meeting held on the 8th of May 2024. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hart, seconded Councillor Arnott. Is to be opposed? Councillor Hart, do you wish to speak to it? Thank you. Yeah, I was just checking that they were fine. Okay, thank you. Councillors, a call for a vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried 6-0. Moving on to verbal submissions from submitters, it is pleasing to see so many submissions from the community regarding the 4 items in today's agenda. Councillors and staff appreciate the time and effort every submitter has made in making a written submission, and also appreciate those people who are joining us today to speak to their submission in person. I want to reassure everyone that councillors do receive each submission in full and we find them very useful. Today provides people with the opportunity to restate their submission for us or to highlight particular points of their submission if they wish. I'll shortly read out the names of people who have registered to address their submissions, this Submissions Committee today. And if you're in the gallery, perhaps put your hand up so we know that you are here when I get your name. If you're registered and I don't call your name, please let one of the members of the executive team know and we'll be able to sort something out. So for the item relating to the proposed discontinuance of road reserve adjacent to 80A Hart Street, Colac, we received 1 submission. Mr. Jason Schramm's requested to speak today. Thank you, Mr. Schramm. For the item relating to the proposed change to the speed limit in Colac CBD area, we received 8 submissions in total, and Jason Schramm's requested to speak to his submission today. You don't have to put your hand up the second time. Thanks. For the item relating to the proposed changes to speed limits in Kennet River, we received 22 submissions in total, and 2 of these people were requested to speak today, including the following: Jason Schramm and Corinna De Chira in the capacity of President of the Kennet River Association, and also as an individual submitter. For the item relating to the draft budget 2024-25 and draft fees and charges for next financial year, Council received 60 submissions in total from 44 people, and 10 of these people were requested to speak today, including the following: Karina Dachira in the capacity of President of the Kennet River Association. And I neglected to mention that Karina is present online, and I can see you, Karina. Also presenting Jenny Evans. I haven't seen Jenny come in. Ian Court on behalf of the Birregurra Community Group. Thank you, Ian. James Judd, Mr Judd is here. Anara Bruders. Doug Burt. Emma Craddock. Susan Langridge. Thank you, Susan's here. Mark Sampati and Jason Schramm. So please note that this committee will hear submissions today, but no decision will be made regarding any of the 4 items in today's agenda. Decisions on these matters will be made at an upcoming council meeting. At today's meeting, I'll introduce each item and then call up each person who has registered to speak to those 2 items. A limit of 5 minutes will apply to each submitter, and I'll allow people with multiple submissions to the one item to have a maximum of 5 minutes per submission, but ask that they be considerate of everyone's time today and make their points in a succinct manner, please. We'll now move to those items of the agenda. First item being item number 1, proposed discontinuance of Road Reserve 80A Hart Street, Colac. As I've mentioned, one submitter has requested to be heard in support of their submission, and I invite Mr Schramm to come forward and address the committee.
And just as Mr Schramm comes up, I just, at the start of this item, restate my general conflict of interest for the record.
Thank you, CEO. Mr Tenney.
Likewise, just to restate my conflict of interest. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Mr Schramm.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Yeah, with my submission, I didn't necessarily disagree with the consolidation of the road reserve into the land. It was more to do with probably the process that Council's going about consolidating the land first before deciding or going to the community what they want to do with it. And the concern I guess I had was the item 5 or point 5 in the recommendation, that it was if they didn't get any submissions, you'll go to start the process to consolidate the land, then prepare a report for a future council meeting to sell the land. And I guess my concern was, or the point I wanted to make was, you probably should go out to the community first to see what they might want to do with this land. You know, it could be a park, a BMX track, anything. But you haven't done that process first. So if you consolidate the land, then you go to sale and get submissions from the public that say, hang on, we want this for, you know, a set of monkey bars down here, and you need that little road reserve. You've sort of got the order wrong, and then you can't really undo it. You know, I think, you know, if you go ahead and consolidate it straight away, it sort of takes away the potential to need that for a path for, you know, whether it be a walking path along that road reserve or what it might be. I also don't have the best faith or an understanding, I guess, from what was passed last time about why you want to sell it. And if it was to gain more money for the Shire to spend, I'm not convinced that this Shire would spend that money wisely. I think, you know, $2.5 million on Bruce Street and we don't have much to show for it. You've gifted a kindergarten to Apollo Bay for no real reason. This land might be strategically used in the future, but you haven't gone out to the community to ask why. So I'll just ask you to consider maybe not consolidating it at the first, or go out to the community before you make that decision. It may come back, the community want to sell it for 250 grand or whatever it might be. But I think the process is wrong. And while I said I don't necessarily disagree with consolidating it, if that was the purpose to sell it one day, I think you should go out first to find out. I'd like to see a community veggie garden or something in Colac, possibly on that bit of land, maybe on another one, or you could gift it to the Salvation Army to grow vegetables and have elderly people come and tend to it and get everyone involved and then provide food to the needy. But I just think this process is sort of around the wrong way a little bit. And that's the point I wanted to make to my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schramm. Are you happy to take questions if councillors have any?
Sure.
Councillors, any questions for Mr. Schramm? Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Mr. Schramm, for your submission today. I note the point of what you're saying, but is it fair to say that you're not objecting to discontinuing it as a road?
Not, I guess, in the initial stage, but I think if you did that before you decided what you wanted to do with the land, if it was a park, I don't know. Whatever it might come back is, you might want that road reserve still in there. You know, for even for a footpath, even, you know, I don't know. So I don't, necessarily object, but I wanted to make the point that maybe before you consolidate it, have a look at some of the options you might want. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Councillor Finnegan.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Or I guess the terminology should be Acting Chair, I'm not sure at the moment. Thank you for your submission, Mr. Schramm.
You're welcome.
I guess from what I can see, your submission here really speaks to, I'm guessing it's more a concern with process and due process and processes being followed properly. The question is, do you feel that council in this matter, I guess I can ask the question, do you feel that council in this matter has followed the process as it probably should?
I guess that's for management to decide what process needed to be followed, but I personally think that you may have wanted to go to the community first to see what you might want to do with this land, and if you exhausted all options and it was council's wish, then you would go to sell it. And I guess that was my concern in the point 5 of the recommendation back in March, that council's intent is to consolidate the land to sell it. And I think once council gets down that path, it's nearly too late for the community to change their mind unless they want to gift it to someone for unknown reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Mr. Schramm.
Thank you.
Councillors, we have a recommendation in the agenda for our consideration. Does any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this matter? Councillor Hart. Is there a seconder? Councillor Finnegan. Is it to be opposed? Councillor Hart, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Schramm, for your submission on this particular matter. The recommendation that we're voting on today, just moved and seconded, is essentially noting the submission and referring it to a council meeting for an actual decision. But the way I interpreted, and I think it would be worth some clarity when this comes, if this gets passed and if this comes to a council meeting, the way I interpreted point 4 would be that there'd be a separate process, point 5 on page 7 from the motion that was passed in March, so that's point 5. I interpreted that there would also be a separate process if and when council was considering selling the property, and that this process that we're dealing with today is submissions on whether or not we need that as a road. So that's how I understood it, and I think there needs to be clarity around that if this motion gets passed today, which is essentially to bring it back to council, about those different processes. And the submission we've heard, while I appreciate the depth of the submission, in some respect covers both those issues. If there is another process, I think that really needs to be teased out in the report that comes to us at the June meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Hart. Councillor Finnegan, did you wish to speak? Any other councillor? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Look, I really appreciate the presentation that you put to Council. It's fantastic to get that from you, Mr Schramm. I do want to pick up the point put out by Councillor Hart that note 5.5 notes that a further report will be presented prior to commencement of a process to consider the sale of the property. That I would expect to go through the ordinary process of Council to consider the use for other purposes or whatever. That is consistent with the Council process and management procedures on excess land or land that's considered to be excess before it's brought to sale. So I think that your presentation actually fits right within what the intent of Council is to do anyway.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried 6-0. Councillors, item number 2, submissions to the proposed Colac CBD speed limit changes. We have one submitter requesting to be heard in support of their submission. I invite Mr Schramm to address the committee.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Again, I don't disagree with the reduction to 40 in those streets. I think some time ago there was community advocating, in particular for Bromfield Street, where it's a unique sort of parking situation, and I certainly wouldn't want that parking to change because we don't have enough in the CBD as it is. I think if this all goes ahead, and I don't know the process, if you're doing this for Vic Roads or doing it on behalf of yourselves to advocate or why exactly it's being done. The only thing I'd probably ask is have a look at the broader picture of the CBD and some of the turning arrows, and like I put in the submission, it's a schmozzle out front of Bunnings where, you know, once upon a time when Coles and stuff was developed, you could turn right in there. Now there's traffic islands painted everywhere, 2 sets of arrows, one going into Bunnings, one going around the corner. Then you've got, when the train comes and the boom gates go down, they're blocked up to Murray Street. And maybe if you are liaising with Vic Roads, because that's their road, I understand, you know, you look at some of these other issues and maybe left-hand turns out of some of the driveways and signage and those sort of things. The thing that I'd probably want to put in, I'm not sure if I had it in my submission, would be the times. I think Murray Street should be timed 40, just like Camperdown, electronic signs and the like. I know a heap of signs went up there in Colac, and I don't know why, then they disappeared. People spending money with signage company or something. And the times that were up were probably too long. I think like 6 a.m. or something to 8:30 p.m. It probably should be narrowed down a little bit. I think you know, after 6 p.m. I think the traffic in the CBD is mostly gone, but they're for smarter people than me to work out. But I think you know, you can maybe even look at that in the back streets too. You know, so you're doing this for the right reason, safety purposes. And you know, so you can't be accused of revenue raising if dropping the speeds just to book someone at 1 o'clock in the morning that's doing 48 down Bromfield Street. So let's you know, possibly even look at, you know, more lighting on the corners and some of the crossings for people in wheelchairs or mobility scooters to access the road. Some of them are quite steep, and you see them nearly roll those little scooters and things at times. And so I'm not sure if council's funding some of this, or it's a state government requirement for you to do it, or there's a bit of both, don't know. But if you can get a heap of funding and maybe do some of the improvements with turning arrows and lighting and crossovers and those sort of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors for Mr Schramm? Thank you. Councillors, we have a recommendation in the agenda for our consideration. Any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this matter? Thanks, Councillor Finnegan. Seconder, please. Councillor Hanson. To be opposed. Councillor Finnegan, did you wish to speak to it?
No, I thought because it wasn't being opposed, it'd just go through as a 6-0 vote. Is that correct? Yep, thank you.
Councillor Hanson?
I wish to thank all the people who have made submissions, both verbally and written submissions. It's a really important issue, and that a decision on this will come to a council meeting at the June meeting.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried 6-0. Item number 3, councillors, submission for the proposed Kennet River speed limit changes. We have 2 people who've requested to speak to their submissions. Firstly, I'll invite Jason Schramm to address the committee, and then I'll invite Karina. Mr. Schramm.
Thanks again, Councillor Potter. I think my issue with the speed reduction isn't so much around the town and the back streets. I sort of don't really live there, but I work along the Great Ocean Road and go through Kennet River quite often, and my concern was the 20-kilometre speed zone. I don't think it would work. I'm not sure about the science behind it. I certainly don't agree with having one part of the Great Ocean Road, which is a major tourist attraction for Australia, down to 20, in that it may give a false sense of security to some of our tourists on other parts of the road. They think they've got right away in Kennet River and wander out and don't pay much attention, and the cars stop for them, which they should regardless if someone walks on the road. But then they're on another part of the road and they think, I've got right away, they've got the camera out, and they just stroll straight out in a 60 or 80 zone somewhere, and they get cleaned up thinking the cars are going to stop for them. So that's my concern. Is I don't see how it can work. I don't on a major road like the Great Ocean Road, and especially if it was going to be unique. I think it'd create more troubles than it would solve. I think the speed limit is pretty slow through the towns. Most towns on the Great Ocean Road, as it is. Maybe some more warning signs and some education around, in particular on the Great Ocean Road, would suffice rather than down to 20. I know some of the towns like Lorne and things are seasonally 40 and even in areas permanently 40 now. That may suffice to solve some of them, give cars plenty of time to stop. But that's my concern with the Kennet River, and just think it's mainly the Great Ocean Road. The rest of the streets will, the residents and things would have more to say than myself, who just works down there from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Schramm? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Karina, are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Thank you. I'll now throw over to you on behalf of the Kennet River Association.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. I've got a verbal submission on behalf of the Kennet River Association and then on behalf of myself. So I'll just start with the Kennet River Association submission. So the Kennet River Association, which currently has 248 members, undertook a survey of the community to gather views about the shared zone proposal, and we received 10 survey responses. 8 submissions were strongly opposed to the creation of a shared zone and 2 were in favour. The KRA's overall submission opposes the creation of a shared zone. While we don't oppose the reduction of the speed limit per se, we do oppose pedestrians and cyclists having right of way in the proposed area. And so why do we oppose it? Well, we need to start by asking, what should the visitor experience in Kennet River be? So if we wanted the tourism experience in Kennet River to be walking around public roads, looking up at trees for koalas, then a zone that prioritises pedestrians on public roads might well be the answer. However, this isn't the tourism experience that we want to encourage for Kennet River, and in fact, it's the antithesis of what the community has been working towards for the past 10 years or more. So we acknowledge that a problem exists, but we don't feel that this is the solution. The vision is not to have people walking up Grey River Road or walking in the middle of any other roadway in Kennet River. The solution is to move the pedestrians from the public roadways onto the open space Crown land, to the river, the nature walk, the fishing platform, the picnic area, the wetland and the river walk, not to modify the roadways so that the pedestrians have right of way. The safest way to avoid an incident between pedestrians and cars is to move pedestrians off the roadways, not to encourage them to use the roadways, which is exactly what this proposal does. In the case of Kennet River, the very open space Crown land we need to resolve the issue already exists, but is underutilised. The creation of a shared zone where pedestrians have priority access to the road simply perpetuates a problem that we've been trying to eradicate for years. We need to work towards a permanent and sustainable solution for Kennet River, and the current infrastructure project is the most appropriate mechanism for the strategic considerations of the issues facing Kennet River, which are being caused by tourism. And the creation of a shared zone shouldn't be considered outside the broader context of this project. We need to focus our efforts on changing the way visitors interact with Kennet River instead of turning our public roads into tourist attractions, which they are not. So if council wants to address safety concerns, they need to work with Gorkappa to move visitors to the open space Crown land down by the river, away from public roads. They need to drastically reduce the number of buses that stop in Kennet River, which is achievable through the permit system, currently managed by Parks Victoria, but scheduled to transfer to Gorkappa on the 1st of July 2025. And that's where council efforts should be focused in terms of resolving the safety issues in Kennet River. Just in the community comments that we received as part of the survey, I just wanted to summarise a few of these. Under this proposal, tourists are getting preferential treatment over residents who are trying to access their homes via Hordern Avenue and Grey River Road. The issue has come about through the non-existent management of tourist operators. With the removal of tourist buses and some sensible engineered planning and management, this will make the area safe and functional. The Kennet River community should have access to this area, which includes the general store, without the chaos that currently exists there. The shared zone, is not an appropriate solution. Encouraging tourists to walk around the roads as if they were pedestrian areas and not public roadways will only make the situation more dangerous. Tourists should be directed to the specifically created attractions, the nature walk, the river walk, the walk to Wye River. Giving pedestrians right of way on the lower part of Grey River Road gives them a false sense of security further up the road where there would be no shared zone, and this is already a huge issue. They already stand in the middle of the road around blind corners. By creating the assumption of a pedestrian thoroughfare on the lower part of the road, this massively increases the chance of pedestrian danger in the upper part of the road. This is not a practical solution. It actively inhibits the road use and overall enjoyment of Kennet River for residents. Current behaviours on these roadways include walking backwards looking up trees, resentful approach to cars, children impulsively deciding to run across the road, confused behaviour regarding keep to the left or right. It's only a matter of time before a tragic accident occurs. The only viable solutions are controlling excessive short-term visitor clusters and directing of visitors to designated walking areas. So
Thanks,
in
Karina.
summary from the Kennet River Association, the shared zone does not address the root cause of the issues facing Kennet River. This proposal is being considered outside the context of the current Geelong City Deal project, which is the most appropriate avenue for such strategic considerations. It will perpetuate an already unsustainable situation in relation to tourist and tour operator behaviour. It will cause more disharmony between residents and visitors. It will further detract from the amenity of Kennet River and the rights of the community. It goes against what the community has been working towards for over a decade.
Thanks, Karina. Well over time.
Thank you.
Sorry, you've got another shot in a minute. You happy to take questions from councillors if they have any?
Yep, for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Finning, you had your hand up first.
Thank you for your submission on behalf of the association, Corinna. Would it be fair to say that you've got some fairly strong viewpoints that have been put in this submission against sort of what the plan is around a shared path. And you make particular mention that perhaps the best way to deal with this is to be considered within the context of the Geelong City Deal project and working with GORCAPA. Would you say that, would you like to see council take a formal position on this to present to GORCAPA, perhaps, in the chamber?
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I think what I'm saying is that the infrastructure project is still in the planning stages, and the consideration of something like a shared zone should be undertaken as part of that project and not in isolation, because once we've actually planned what the precinct should look like and where people should go, where they should park, where the toilets are going to be, etc., it's going to become clearer. And so to be making this decision outside of the context of that project is premature. So I guess I'm just saying we need to let that Kennet River infrastructure project play out, and if this type of proposal should be considered, it should be considered in the context of that project and not separately, and certainly not beforehand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hart.
Thanks for your submission, Karina, on behalf of the KRA. I just want to make sure that I've clearly understood it. I hear you that the association does not agree with the shared zone proposal. So is it also the case that the KRA, Kennet River Association, doesn't want a reduction of the speed limit? Because there were two elements to this. There was the reduction of the speed limit, and there was making it a shared zone, and you made it crystal clear you're not happy with the shared zone. I hear that. But I'm trying to understand what your position is on the speed limit reduction.
Yeah, look, the speed limit reduction, we're not opposed to. It doesn't relate to the Great Ocean Road itself. It relates to Hordern Avenue, the roundabout, the service road, and a part of Grey River Road. So we confirmed this at a KRA general meeting on Saturday, that people are not opposed to a speed limit reduction. On some of those roads, you can't travel faster than 20 k's currently anyway, but on Hordern Avenue and Grey River Road, you can. The opposition is more around the right-of-way of pedestrians, but not the reduction of the speed limit.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Karina. Now, as an individual, you can talk to your submission.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Potter. So the primary function of the roadways at the centre of this proposal are to provide access to residential properties within the Kennet River Township, and in the case of Grey River Road, to provide access to the National Park, nearby picnic areas and walks, and ultimately to Colac, this being the back road between Kennet River and Colac. Hordern Avenue is the only access road between the Great Ocean Road and the Kennet River Township. If vehicles turning from the Great Ocean Road onto Hordern Avenue are not freely able to move along Hordern Avenue because of pedestrians congregating on the road, this has the potential to cause congestion and safety concerns on the Great Ocean Road itself, for traffic waiting to turn into Hordern Avenue but unable to due to pedestrian congestion. Hordern Avenue and Grey River Road are busy roads during the summer months when people travel multiple times a day between their homes and the beach. And the most appropriate solution is not to change these roads into a pedestrian zone, but to move the pedestrians away from these roads. In addition, emergency vehicles require unhindered access to these roads. So the CFA vehicles draft water from the river and utilise the service road as their only access point to the river, and the service road is part of the proposed shared zone. Emergency vehicles also need to access the residential area and the National Park via Hordern Ave and Grey River Road. And creating a situation where pedestrians are encouraged to congregate on public roads has the potential to inhibit emergency vehicle access to the river, the township and the National Park. Kennet River already has open space Crown land to move these visitors to, so we need to focus our energies on moving the tourists to the appropriate location rather than trying to mould an inappropriate location to suit the tour operators who send their patrons to these inappropriate areas. I can also foresee an increase in aggressive behaviour between the community and visitors, which has already been happening for over a decade due to the frustration of residents who are trying to go about their daily business of moving in and out of their properties, and tourists who are wandering around the roadways as if they were a dedicated tourist park. So while I commend the Shire and DTP for considering ways to improve pedestrian safety in Kennet River, I don't believe that this proposal is the solution. The $3.7 million allocated to Kennet River through the Geelong City deal should be used to strategically plan for pedestrian and traffic movement and to resolve the conflicts that are present between the various road users. The creation of a permanent shared zone needs much greater consideration and shouldn't be considered outside the context of the broader infrastructure project. Kennet River has two main areas of open space Crown land, these being the beach and the green space along the service road and the river. And visitors to Kennet should be encouraged to visit Crown land rather than public roadways. And infrastructure to support visitation, such as car parking, footpaths, public toilets, walking tracks, picnic areas, playgrounds, etc., should be planned and designed in such a way that visitors are encouraged to visit open space Crown land and deterred from visiting public roadways as their visitor experience to Kennet River. And the Nature Walk, which is implemented by the community in 2018 alongside the river, is a really good example of how infrastructure can be used to influence visitation patterns. For many years, the community's been battling against the practice of tourists congregating in large numbers in the middle of roadways in Kennet River to observe animals and feed birds, as well as large numbers of people walking up Grey River Road. The creation of this shared zone where pedestrians have right-of-way only perpetuates this problem. Residents trying to access their homes are already hindered by pedestrians congregating on and walking in the middle of the roadways in question. So in conclusion, infrastructure that caters for pedestrians should be strategically considered and planned rather than roadways being converted to pedestrian areas. Thank you.
No, thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Katrina, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate the information you've given us. And I wanted to clarify again some of the points that Councillor Hart brought up in respect to, you've said it's not so much about the speed limit. So you're not concerned with a reduction of speed limit, what that would do for access to the residents to the back of that properties. So look, there's only one road that gets into the properties off the Ocean Road there. So that wouldn't be a problem as such?
I don't think so. I mean, the proposed shared zone on Hordern Avenue itself isn't very long. I think the shared zone proposal is maybe 50 metres.
Yes.
So I don't think reducing that area to 20 kilometres an hour for that short stretch of road is going to be an impediment really to people accessing their properties. Grey River Road, it's a little bit, the proposed shared zone is a little bit longer, but again, you know, slightly reducing the speed limit, I think, which would be 50 at the moment, to 20, probably isn't going to have a huge impact. What is going to have the impact is people all over the road. So I guess in saying that, I wouldn't be reducing the speed limit at this point in time either. I think that what we should be doing is looking at the infrastructure project, seeing how that plays out, seeing where all of the infrastructure lands, and then making strategic decisions about the shared zone and the speed limit reduction. So at this stage, I think the community's not so much opposed to the speed limit reduction, but if the infrastructure project is done in a really good way, the speed limit might not need to be reduced to 20 kilometres an hour. So I just feel like we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But no, in general terms, people seemed reasonably comfortable with a speed limit reduction. But again, maybe we should wait until the infrastructure project plays out.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillors, the officers have provided a recommendation for a simulation of this matter. Does any councillor wish to move a motion? Councillor Hart, you're moving the recommendation as a motion. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Costin. Is it to be opposed? Excuse me, Councillor Hart.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and I'd like to thank everyone who's put in a written submission and the verbal submissions today on this issue. this is essentially referring the decision to the June meeting. I would make a comment though, I hadn't thought that this was applying to the Great Ocean Road, but at the same time I can see the way the hatched area is around a service road might have given that impression. So all I'd say in relation to today's meeting is that I think it's critical that the report we get to the June meeting, if this motion's passed, is crystal clear on that issue and removes any confusion that could occur from the way the service road is hatched, to make it crystal clear whether or not it does apply to Great Ocean Road, because I don't think that it was intended to.
Thanks, Councillor Hart. Councillor Costin, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd just like to thank all the submitters. We have 22 submissions from the small town of Kennet River, which is quite a response proportionally for the number of residents who live there. Those submissions have sent a strong message. Councillors have copies of all those submissions and will consider that. And I agree with Councillor Hart that I was of the understanding that this proposal didn't include the Great Ocean Road, but we need to make that quite clear when this matter comes to Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried 6-0. Item number 8.4, submissions to the draft budget 2024-25 and draft fees and charges for 24-25. 10 submitters have requested to speak to their submissions. I note so far some of them have not turned up. There is a maximum of 5 minutes per submission. Karina.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Would you like me to go ahead?
Sorry, you're speaking to this submission, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Kennet River Association in support of the $20,000 that has been placed in the draft budget for paid lifeguards to patrol at the Kennet River Beach over the upcoming 2024-25 summer period. Kennet River has a hazard rating, or Kennet River Beach has a hazard rating of 7 out of 10 and is considered highly hazardous. The main beach is located opposite the Kennet River Caravan Park, which has over 400 patrons a night in the summer period. And in addition, Kennet River has over 160 private dwellings, which are heavily utilised in peak season. And as with all coastal towns, the population of Kennet River swells dramatically over summer. Lifesaving Victoria funded paid lifeguards for Kennet River during the summers of 2021, 21-22 and 22-23. So this is certainly an acknowledgement that paid patrols are needed in Kennet River. However, due to funding cuts, lifeguards were not provided by LSV in the 23-24 summer period. The Kennet River Surf Lifesaving Club is a small club that doesn't have the capacity to provide volunteer lifeguards for the summer period. They can only cover the weekends and public holidays. Therefore, they rely on paid lifeguards to provide patrols during weekdays. During February and March this year, 3 Good Samaritan rescues that we know of occurred on the Kennet River main beach and most likely saved the lives of many people. This follows a summer of record drownings in Victoria. The Shire's financial support for paid lifeguards in Kennet River supports not only the local community but also the visitors to Kennet River who come in their thousands. The Kennet River Association's been strongly advocating to Lifesaving Victoria and GORCAPA to co-fund lifesaving patrols at Kennet River Beach. And while we continue in these advocacy efforts, without the $20,000 that has been allocated by the Shire in the draft budget for the upcoming summer period, I'm almost certain that paid lifeguard patrols will not be achieved in Kennet River this summer. We're looking forward to working alongside the Shire to find a more sustainable solution for paid lifeguards into the future for Kennet River Beach. Thank you for your time, and we hope that you'll retain the $20,000 for paid lifeguards at Kennet River in your final budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thanks, Karina. Councillors, Mr Doug Burt is now unable to speak to his submission and has asked that it be read out for the committee. Given it's very short, I'm going to read it out now. Submission reads, a public playground in Lavers Hill. This would be best be constructed on old tennis courts next to the community centre, as there is a public toilet nearby. Signage for the toilets could be improved. Lavers Hill needs a public space for travellers to stop, rest and revive. Travellers often park in College Drive overnight and use the nature strip as a picnic area. I'm getting frustrated by many who leave litter around and others who use my nature strip and front yard as a toilet. Thank you, Mr Burt. We'll now move to people who are here in person to speak to their submissions, and I'll call on Mr Ian Cord on behalf of the Birregurra Community Group.
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. Firstly, could I just put an apology in for Trevor Hodgson, our President, who's seriously ill and is unable to attend. This submission is in support of a significant project for, I think, Birregurra and the community, the region more widely, and that's for a BMX pump track to be installed in the skate park precinct of Birregurra. The design is for an all-weather, low-maintenance track with a 20 to 30 year lifespan. It'll provide a new and exciting facility suitable for bikes, skateboards and scooters with beginner, intermediate and possibly advanced features. And as I say, we think this is to be built would be attractive not only in the Birregurra community but in the wider region. It would attract visitors in a similar way, I think, to Forest with their mountain bike trails. The Birregurra community has got support from all the major groups within the township. It has already done quite a lot of work on this. We've identified one of the most experienced consultants in Australia on these sorts of infrastructure, and that is Common Ground Trails Proprietary Limited. We've already spent $2,000 getting a preliminary assessment and inspection of the site, which has confirmed that the site is very suitable for what's proposed, and it's also seen to be quite feasible from a cost and construction point of view. What the Birregurra Community Group is asking of Council is to provide $15,000 in the budget, which would go towards, we estimate, a cost of $28,000 for a detailed consultancy, which would include detailed design and costing, so that the project is shovel ready. And we're very conscious of the fact that to get government grants and Shire grants, we need shovel ready projects, ones that have been demonstrated to be feasible but also designed properly, and the work has been done. So we as a community group have done that sort of work. We come to the council with a modest proposal, we think, to go to the next step. The remaining amount of money to get this study going would be provided by the community. The community group itself is able to put in another $4,000 or $5,000. From the markets, the Sunday markets we run, there'll be money coming from there, and there's other groups that have indicated, and individuals I should say, that are prepared to put money in to show their support. So we think that spending money on youth facilities is becoming increasingly important. I think everybody would be aware of the problems that have been created through social media and social isolation, the mental health problems. And we need to get kids out into the outdoors and do some risky activities rather than sitting on their screens, and we think this is a great way of doing it. I guess the other concern the community has is because we've had an explosion of young people in the last few years, we've now got 25% of the population that's under 18, We have had problems on the golf course and various other places with kids riding bikes through gardens and various damage which has been caused. So that's brought the thing to a head for a lot of people as well. So I commend the proposal to the council on behalf of the community group. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Court. Are there any questions for Mr. Court? I have one, if I may. It's not usual the Chair speaks, but just for clarification, the original submission put on behalf of the Progress Association was for 10,000. You're now seeking 15, and you'll make up the rest to get to 28,000. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, yes, the quote that came in for the detailed study was a bit more, about 5,000 more than we originally anticipated. So we're hoping the council can meet that, and we'll meet whatever the remaining cost is.
Thank you. Councillor Finnegan, were you going to ask a question or not? No. Oh, okay. Sorry. Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. Judd, would you like to speak to your submission, please?
Well, it's to do with the length of the renewal of the footpaths, because they'll need to be regularly upgraded near schools, medical facilities, shopping centres, and not. If the 2050 growth plan goes ahead, there'll be a lot more footpaths added to the network that the council have to upgrade. And at a few years back, it was being renewed at such a slow rate that it'd take 200 years to renew them once. And the schools that they need to be regularly done every year.
Thanks, Mr. Judd. If anyone had any questions for Mr. Judd? No. Thank you. Thanks for your submission. I now call on Susan Langridge on behalf of the Climate Action Team.
Hello. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the budget. I'm here on behalf of the Climate Action Team. We put in a submission and I seem to have lost my notes. Oh, here we go. We're local citizens who are concerned about the climate crisis that is coming for us all, and we think that all levels of government should reduce emissions, help all of us to do this as well, and also, reorientate services to take account of the climate crisis. We think that it can't be business as usual, and that, really we should be on a war footing, pretend it's 1939 and Hitler's just invaded Poland, and we're reorientating our economy to fight against that. This budget, of course, reads as business as usual, as most budgets are. We note the good work that the Council is undertaking in many areas of its responsibility. We were pleased to see action in the draft budget to fully electrify Bluewater Leisure Centre, and we note that if the Council is successful in securing the 50% Commonwealth grant to this end, it will need to match this with funds of $1.342 million in the following year, 2025 to 2026. However, given Council's acknowledgement that its communities are facing a global climate change and biodiversity crisis, one that requires urgent action by all levels of government, including local council, there's little indication in the draft budget funding priorities of the acknowledged urgency. The funds allocated to Bluewater electrification, of total of 42,000, represent the entire major initiatives allocation for the strategic theme valuing the natural and built environment. But this only equates to 6.3% of the total major initiatives budget. In November last year, councillors endorsed 2 strategic plans, the Climate Change Action Plan and the Environmental Sustainability Strategy. So we want to ensure that that plan has money attached to it. So that's what we looked at the budget with. So one of the actions that we wanted, that was in the plan, was to encourage and foster urban greening, and it was noted, the officer's comments were on that Climate Change Action Plan, that really we needed a urban greening and canopy cover mapping to establish a baseline of 2023-24. It doesn't appear that that is in the budget. Other actions were to really ramp up tree planting. There was going to be 400 trees planted across the Shire. Really, now's the time to do it while we have a fairly stable climate, is just really get those trees in the ground. So 400 is not a lot. My local land care group, we did 1,000 last year. I think more should be done for that. And we also wanted the action in Climate Change Action Plan of increasing adoption of nature-based green-blue infrastructure solutions, which was all to do with coastal erosion, sea level rise, urban heat, stormwater management. It was noted that a lot of these initiatives were a high cost with a long time frame, but with climate change accelerating, we've got to get started on these, and again, these aren't in the budget. Also, a mechanism for refrigerant capture and recycling in future council waste contracts, with people being encouraged to go over to heat pumps for air conditioning and water heating. Those units are going to end up at end of life at Alvey, recycling centre. So really, we need some mechanism to collect the greenhouse gases, and they shouldn't be allowed to vent off into the atmosphere. And the other thing that probably is quite close to my heart is looking at something to do with heat refuges for people as the climate gets hotter. There are a lot of people in the Colac Otway Shire that live in poorly insulated houses, who are low income, who don't have air conditioning, and really the Shire should maybe revisit the heatwave plan that was written in 2009. A lot of it really does need updating, and I think some attention should be paid to maybe providing some areas of air conditioning, air-conditioned areas that people could come to shelter in a case of a heat wave.
Thank you.
That's probably the main.
Yeah, that's good timing, a bit over the 5 minutes. Are you happy to take questions if councillors have any? Councillor Finnegan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for speaking to your submission, Susan. It's much appreciated. As you likely know, the job of council is one which is built around, I guess, delicately balancing finances, making decisions on what we should spend money on or not. How would you, I guess the question I would put to you, what would you suggest that we cut back on in order to enact some of these policies, for example, or, do you think, for example, just one thing I can think off the top of my head, and it's something we're discussing at a future meeting. Do you think that perhaps rather than giving G21 $20,000 more than they asked for, that perhaps we should not be doing that and redirecting it to possibly some of these projects or other areas of the budget?
Well, that's the first I've heard about G21 wanting an extra $20,000.
No, sorry, the councillors elected to give them an extra $20,000 more than they were asking for.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to talk about that because I don't really know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, I know it's a hard job. You've got to you've got to look at your budget and look at your priorities. I think in some of these examples that we put up, it wouldn't cost a lot to plant more trees, and you could utilise volunteer groups like land care so that you could plant more than 400 trees. Use school groups, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think with the heat wave refuges, if you're looking for money for that, like that might be just the cost of someone going on call for heat waves, like a staff member who was there then to open up areas that could provide, comfort for some people. I mean, I go on call for babies. I'm a midwife, so it could be arranged, that someone is just on call for heat waves over summer period or something like that. But yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, but
No, it's all right. I appreciate you.
okay.
I appreciate you having a stab at it anyway. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Susan, thank you for coming along. I appreciate the input that you provide. One thing I'm interested in is about carbon offsets. It's not necessarily within the context of what you've said here, but you do refer to greening the Shire, if you like, and doing green cover mapping. What would your preference be, that we do a green cover mapping and greening of the Shire, or pay for offsets?
Oh, the first one. So yeah, carbon mapping, and then get the trees in the ground here to cool our urban environments, and also provide habitat for wildlife. And
Okay, thank you. That's instructive. Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks very much, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Schramm.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. I had several submissions, but I'll just roll it all into one so you can all go home. It's no surprise to the community on how disappointing this budget is. At least two councillors had the courage to vote against even approving the draft budget to be displayed publicly. It's a shame that the Mayor isn't here to listen to the people today, but I hope she's enjoying her holiday while taking the $8,000 a month mayoral allowance. Again, it is a budget made by the management, for the management, and not for the people that live in and visit our great Shire. A budget based on minority ideologies at the expense of the majority. Of the $32 million collected from rates paid by struggling families, at least $26 million is gone on employee costs. That's 81% of the rates on employee costs. That leaves only $6 million of rates, not only to maintain but to grow our magnificent Shire. The $20 million in state and federal assistance and fees that make up the rest of the revenue is for a specific purpose, like resealing the bitumen roads, and they're usually done by contractors, and shouldn't be confused with the rates revenue that we all pay to better our community. And after you pay for some gravel that's unfortunately of low quality because the Shire's got no money to buy what they need, and to cover the losses in poor financial management of our facilities, there's nothing left to do anything. The whole budget document released for public comment is riddled with errors, full of smoke and mirrors that is near impossible to make heads or tails of, designed to hide the extent of wasted money that goes on in the Colac Otway Shire organisation. We get rambling Joe Biden-like lectures from councillors saying that we need all of these employees, and any business, the employee costs make up a large percentage of expenditure. It makes your skin crawl at the lack of understanding or business acumen or financial management from our council. In business, you pay people, as a rule, to help the business make a financial profit. When the employee costs start to outweigh the rate of return, that's when businesses fold. The Shire doesn't have to make a profit, although it can, but it should at least break even or pay its way in rate of return for our Shire. No one is saying get rid of the frontline workers, as they are the most important, lowest paid and under-resourced employees at the Colac Otway Shire. The management and the buildings at Ray Street are bulging with extremely highly paid and underperforming employees, and some good managers that are too afraid to speak up to challenge the status quo for fear of being sacked. The management needs to be scaled back to become more efficient and effective, and in doing so can save millions of dollars that can be spent on the needs of ratepayers. I question the need for an economic development manager that has failed to attract any growth in the Shire, wants to shut down the visitor information centres, and can only manage to lease out our caravan parks for about $50 a month. Failed to help attract festivals, events, or any markets in the town. We're lucky to have people like the P&A Society that do more for economic development than the entire Shire. Blue Water runs at $1 million a year loss. It doesn't need to make money, but shouldn't run at such a burden to the ratepayer. Fees have gone up 11.5% last year, 5% proposed for this year. For what? It's poorly run and the maintenance is non-existent. If we're paying more fees to get a better service, so be it, but we're not. I go there every morning and you cannot use everything that's in that facility because it doesn't work. It'll be closed for a month in July, so the projected growth in the budget can't be accurate. And it may be closed again if council demolishes the gas boilers for an unlimited time. Copac runs at a $500,000 a year loss. It should be closer to a break-even facility. The sale yards used to be very profitable, but now it runs at a loss. The library subscription costs $1 million a year to be a part of, and all the subscriptions that council sign up to these woke climate committees and G21 adds up to another $1 million. The community asks for little things like BMX and pump tracks, upgrading electrical supply at Lake Colac to be able to have more events. These things cost very little and council says no, we don't have the money. Building the Harris Street Bridge over the creek's always talked about, but no. But this council can waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on buying carbon credits to satisfy the ideologies of an extreme minority and scratch the egos of the elitist and entitled councillors and staff that are willing to waste ratepayers' money to do so. We spent $29,000 on consultants to fix a path over at Ross's Point. That's a joke. It's not even fixed. A couple of $1,000, the job would have been done. Our volunteers used to run our events, build our playgrounds and bridges, sporting ovals and club rooms. Now the council has taken over the running of these facilities and nothing gets done. Volunteers are put through the ringer, projects get delayed, costs blow out, and council diverts back to master plans that will never be funded to kick the can down the road and hope that people will go away.
Sorry, Jason, I think you indicated at the start, you're rolling all your submissions into the one piece of work.
It's about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Time is
No.
Yeah,
that's fine.
This is a direct result of having too many staff and not enough money to do anything with. Let the community do what they do best without the obstacle of council. Like the Colac Braves have been put through the ringer with their batting facility. If they had to run it themselves, they would have got it done cheaply and more efficient, but council gets involved, the project's still not done, and costs have blown out over $100,000. Council wants to spend $50,000 on a feasibility study to get soccer facilities in Colac. Colac has been involved in 2 G21 soccer strategies over the past few years and contributed money towards it. This council's just completed 5 master plans on sporting reserves that involve looking at soccer as well. Not $1 has been allocated in this budget to any of those master plans. It's obvious that soccer need a facility, and Colac has been identified years ago through these strategies that council paid for that they need a soccer facility. It could cater for 2 pitches already. So stop wasting money on another study to kick the can down the road and spend it on a plan at the high school site to build a new venue up there. Put it towards a master plan. Spending $600,000 or allocating it on council elections and plans is a joke, surely. If this council spent $250,000 doing environmental plans as such, then it should hang its head in shame. Although it is great that we'll potentially get a new and hopefully decent council, I fail to see where the costs go. I suggest allocating some of this money towards footpaths or a project in one of the dozens of adopted master plans that aren't funded, but maybe keep a chunk aside for the new council to go through a thorough CEO recruitment process, as you never know when one might jump ship. In short, cut your employee costs by reducing management or paying less for them. Then spend that money on infrastructure our Shire so desperately needs. Stop wasting money on fanciful climate agenda and carbon credit crap, and start to lead by example in this cost of living crunch we all face. Thank you.
Councillors, any questions? Mr Finnegan? Councillor Finnegan?
Thank you, Acting Mayor, and thank you for your submission, Mr Schramm. Firstly, I'd just like to point out, you've made an assertion in there that the sale yards runs at a loss.
Near enough.
At the moment, it runs at a profit at the moment. I sit on the committee, I'd just like to correct that point. However, you've made a number of points throughout your submission around council spending and the like. And you've made a particular point to Blue Water and the like. How do you suggest that council may be able to save money around Blue Water? Would it be around perhaps closing the gym because we've already got 5 or 6 other gyms in town as options for people, or, you know, could you expand upon perhaps how we could save money?
I definitely wouldn't close the gym or close the facility at all. It just needs to be more efficiently run. I can't comment. The public don't get the ins and outs, and I'm surprised if even the councillors would get the ins and outs, the actual breakdown of how the money is spent. We get this smoke and mirrors document to look at that says revenue, expenses, this is what it runs at a loss. If you're willing to give me the breakdown, I could come up with a better answer for you to show how it could be more efficiently run, but I'm not sure whether you or management would be willing to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Arnott?
Thank you, Mr Schramm, for your presentation. It's always good to get a different perspective on things. If we look at Blue Water, can you point to a facility that of a similar regional area that runs at a profit or even break even?
I'm only a member of Colac and use that facility. I'm not really aware of
so
any
you
else.
don't know. That's okay. That's fine. Thank you. Yeah, that'll do for now.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, the officers provided a recommendation with a report for our consideration. Does any... Thank you. You're moving a motion. Which is the recommendation? That's your motion? Thank you. Is that to be seconded? Thanks, Councillor Arnott. Is to be opposed? Councillor Finnegan, did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank those who've made submissions on this particular agenda item, and indeed all agenda items tonight. It's always interesting for us as councillors to not only receive the written submissions but to hear the spoken submissions as well. And sometimes, you know, the context can be lost in the way of written submissions, but hearing them in person, you're able to flesh things out and ask questions of those who have made their verbal submissions. Pardon me. And you know, it's quite interesting. I think it's a great system we have here that we're able to go out to the public for submissions, and people are actually able to get up and speak very passionately about what they believe in relation to submissions, particularly in the budget. You know, we've heard verbal submissions from Ms. Langridge regarding environmental matters, I guess, and as well we've heard a number of points from Mr. Schramm, one of our former mayors, about how we could perhaps be reining in spending within the Shire as well. So I appreciate everyone's point of view and appreciate hearing from everyone, and I commend this motion to the vote.
Thanks, Councillor Finnegan. Councillor Arnott?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Potter. Look, it's really good to get the submissions from the public to get an idea from a different perspective of how people see things. One thing's for certain, there will be some, I think, slightly different outcomes for budget as a result of the submissions we've got coming in, which is, I think, is good. That's what we want to get the public views for. In the end, I think that we'll have a robust budget out, which sees our community getting a very good outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Hart.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I would like to thank everyone who's put in submissions or spoken to their submissions today. I think it would be, when the report comes to council, I think it would some of the issues could be clarified. I'm thinking of the library in particular, and I've already raised it with council that there's a difference between the amount that's paid to the Geelong Regional Library Corporation and other costs that are charged through the budget. So I think something like that, and I'm just using that one as an example, could be some clarity around it in the context of responding to submissions where the way the financial accounts are presented perhaps don't give the clarity without some explanation behind it.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Thanks, councillor. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried 6-0, and that concludes today's Submissions Committee hearing. Thank you.